Today we're going to talk about renting versus owning a home. Hey everybody, this is Andy from BDJ Real Estate. This video is for all of you that rent a house or an apartment and are making your landlords wealthy. Did you know that nationally more than 60% of American households are owned by the people who live in them? Because they know that owning their own home builds their wealth. In this video, I'm going to show you step by step the money you can save by home ownership with the same monthly rent payment. You're also going to learn a little bit about financing and the economics of home ownership. So let's go take a look. Before we get started, open up your video window to full screen mode. It'll make the numbers a little bit easier to see. So you just go down to the right hand corner and click on the little square and you'll have full screen mode. I was just talking to Christopher the other day and he said that his rent was $881 a month. So during the first year, Chris is going to pay $881 a month, giving him a total of $10,572 for an annual payment to his landlord. And in year two, we see that Christopher's rent is now $902 a month, and that's because the landlord is passing on the cost of inflation to his renters. Taking a look at the inflation chart going back to 1990, if we take the average of all this data and draw a straight line, we can see that we end up with an average inflation rate of 2.4%. So that's why the rent increased, because built in we put an inflation rate of 2.4% into our calculations. Let's see what happens during the rest of the years. In year 3, there's another increase for inflation and the rent goes to $924. Year 4 jumps to $946. Year 5, $969. Year 6, $992. Year 7, it goes over $1,000 to $1,016. The average rent equals $947 a month. Now let's talk about buying a home instead of renting a home. Let's look at buying a home a little bit over $108,000. If we put 1% down, the down payment is going to be $1,082. That'll leave us with a loan amount of a little over $107,000. Now let's talk about the loan terms. Christopher may be able to get a 4.5% on a 30-year loan. Now there's a couple more things that we're going to talk about when it comes to loans. Let's talk about loan discount points. Loan discount points are used to buy down the loan interest rate to get a better rate. For this example, the interest rate without discount points is 4.75%. But the buyer pays for a 1-point discount and the interest rate drops to 4.5%. On this $107,000 loan, the monthly payment will be reduced by about $16. The points cost the buyer about $1,071, so the buyer will break even on this decision in about 5.5 years. The buyer saves about $200 a year for the life of the loan, times 30 years will yield a $6,000 total savings. The total points paid will be 1,070. The formula is simply the loan amount times the discount, gives us a figure of 1,071.48 cents. The next thing to look at is the loan insurance. The upfront mortgage insurance premium. This is paid one time when you get the loan. This is required when the loan to value ratio is greater than 80%. The percent MIP is used to calculate your monthly mortgage insurance premium that you will pay until your loan to value is less than 80%. Okay, and that number works out to be $71.43 a month. The formula is very straightforward. The mortgage insurance premium equals the loan amount times the percent MIP divided by 12. So now let's put it all together and see what our monthly payment is. We see that principal and interest amount to $542.90. If we break that down, the starting principal on the first payment is going to be $141.10 and the interest is $401.80. This payment of $542.90 is fixed over the life of the loan and never changes. The monthly MIP of $71.43 is a fixed quantity and does not change until the loan to value ratio is below 80%. The next thing we're going to add into the monthly payment are going to be taxes and insurance. We're also throwing maintenance in there because as a homeowner you will be spending money to do maintenance on your property. Could be some painting, could be some landscaping, You don't want to cut your own grass, so you hire somebody to cut your grass, and so on. So we can break that down. Taxes are about $1,200 a year, which equals $100 a month. Insurance comes to $800 a year, which gives you $66.67 a month, and maintenance at $1,200 a year, which gives you $100 a month. So our total payment comes to $881 a month, which is just the same amount as we pay if we're renting. So now let's look at our annual expenses when we're a homeowner. So we see in year one, our house payment is $880 a month. Our savings versus renting is zero because we're paying exactly the same amount of money as if we were renting a house or an apartment. In year two, the house payment increased to $887, but it is still less than the $902. So the effect of inflation on our house payment is not as great as when we're renting. And that's because when we look at the breakdown of the total payment, our principal and interest, which never changes for inflation, is at 61.6%. Our MIP, which never changes, is 8.1% of our payment. So about 70% of our payment that we make is not affected by inflation. The only part of our payment which is affected by inflation is the taxes, insurance, and maintenance. Looking at years 3 through 7, we see that our house payment is still lower than what we would be paying if we were renting a house or an apartment. So our average house payment of $901 is almost $50 less than the average rent payment of $947. And our total savings over 7 years on payments comes to $3,868. Now let's take a look at what happens to the value of our home. We are looking forward to an annual home appreciation rate of 4%. If we look at some historical graphs for the Metro Atlanta area, we can see that the annual home appreciation rate has kind of bounced around between a high of 6.5 and on the low end of 4%. And in fact, for the month ending February 2020, the annual appreciation rate in the Roswell, Sandy Springs, Alpharetta area was over 6%. So let's see what that home appreciation rate does to our home value. After 1 year, the home is now worth over $112,000. Our loan balance has gone down, so we have a home equity of $7,140. In year two, the home is worth more than $117,000 because the home has appreciated another 4%, which is compounded on top of the previous year's gain. So after 7 years, we now see our home is worth over $142,000 and our equity has increased to over $49,000. But at some point, we're going to sell this home because a typical homeowner, on the average, moves about once every 7 years. Selling your home usually involves paying a real estate sales commission. Normally, when you sell your home, you're going to pay a real estate sales commission of about 6%. So our 6% commission plus closing costs is going to be over $9,000. But our home equity is only $7,140, and if we have to pay over $9,000 in closing costs, we're going to end up with a net loss of $1,865, right? Not exactly. But the gain loss on the sale is only about $283. That's because there's a tax savings to be realized as a homeowner. The first year tax savings are calculated at about $1,582. Let's take a look and see how we get to that number. Looking at the tax table, Chris's income is somewhere between $39,000 and $84,000, so that's going to put him in an effective tax rate of 22%, federal income tax. So let's plug in that federal tax rate of 22%. But on top of that, there's going to be a state tax. The state income tax rate in Georgia comes out to be 5%. So if we add the 22% to it, we're going to end up with a total tax of 27%. To calculate the tax savings, we take the amount of interest paid to the bank on the first year times 27%. So we had $4,786 in interest times 0.27, and we end up with $1,582 in tax savings. Now if we decide to sell the home in the second year, the situation is much improved with a gain on the sale of $5,356. and that's because the home equity is increased from 7,000 to 13,450. So if we carry this out and look at a sale at the end of 7 years of ownership, we see that the gain on the sale is going to be almost $39,000. So after 7 years of home ownership, here's what the curves look like. Here's our total payments if we're renting. Here's our total payments for owning a home. And here's our total gain loss on the sale. So after 7 years, our gain loss on the property is $38,931, and it could actually be higher because once our loan to value goes under 80%, the monthly MIP payment is removed from the house payment, and that gives us an additional gain of about $1,000 more down here. Okay, so how do you get started? Number one, save up at least $1,500 for escrow and closing. The more you have, the better chance to close on the deal and potentially a lower interest rate on your loan. Number two, have a credit score of 620 or more. The higher it is, the lower your loan interest rate will be. Number three, choose a lender that can offer you down payment assistance options. Then get their loan pre-approval letter, which shows how much money they will lend you for the home. And number four, give us a call and let's start looking for houses. You could give me a call at 770-912-0589 or give Lily a call at 770-912-4743. Like us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And if there's one thing that you got out of this, I hope it is that you can see how you could build your wealth with the same amount of money that you're paying for rent by buying your own house. So why don't you get started right away? I hope you enjoyed the video and stay tuned for other videos from BDJ Real Estate.